Welcome to the Reality Revolution podcast. I'm your host, Brian Scott, coming to you from the void. This podcast is dedicated to the spirits out there who believe life is meant to be magical and fun. It's dedicated to those parallel reality surfers out there. This podcast contains advanced viewpoints for the multidimensional human beings of the 21st century. Here we venture to share the very mysteries of self and reality. My purpose is to reawaken your sense of fascination and awe with life, to shatter your rigid belief systems and ways of seeing the world. My goal is to hack your reality, to unleash your potential and open unlimited possibilities of wealth, health, and relationships in your life. Today's episode is a continuation of our 27th episode, which was techniques to explore and maneuver through parallel realities. If you go back and listen to that, I gave 20 different techniques that you can use right now to travel through parallel realities. And the idea and the goal of these two podcasts is just to give you 40 different techniques, 40 different ways that you can change your reality to enter into a parallel reality. And there's lots of ways to do it. It is wonderful to explore these opportunities. As I said in my last podcast, I went on a long mission when I believed that I had entered into a parallel reality, and I tried all different kinds of techniques and did all kinds of different research, because once I started to understand the quantum model of the universe, the idea the observer creates reality by collapsing the wavefront, it became very important for me to understand these techniques. And because it had been a near-death experience for me, I explored everything with a great vigor to figure out what exactly had happened so that I didn't think that I was insane. But the truth is that life becomes more interesting once you realize there are many versions of yourself and millions of options that await you. The hundreds of possible futures laid out in front of you may be called your destiny, or your highest probability. You may think in your mind that the reality that you're in is what you're stuck in, and that's it, and there's nothing that's going to change. But which of these lifelines you choose may be a matter of free will, even if from a limited viewpoint your choice is reduced to 20, 50, 100 paths. That's still a lot more than most have dared to travel up to now. You can become a parallel reality astronaut. Now, the only catch is that you have to forget and lose one reality in order to fully identify with another. And that is the reason you are sitting there acting as if your current reality were the only one. We do that in order to focus in detail rather than being swept away by chaos of infinite myriads of possibilities. We limit ourselves in order to focus on one aspect of being in detail. The version of yourself that went to the right, the one that went to the left, the one that went straight on, the one that dropped out of school, the one that got married, the one that didn't marry, the one that went to Hollywood and tried to become a screenwriter and failed, the one that went to Hollywood and wanted to become a screenwriter and succeeded, the one that became a veterinarian. As I've said in other podcasts, all of these things are wonderful, possible, incredible opportunities. The one that became the quarterback for the Denver Broncos. Your infinite self has experienced every variation of being. And since your essence is the infinite self, you can do this too. The all that is universe that we're talking about with just metaphors and concepts is one with everything. You are one with all that is universe. You have access to this universe and you can maneuver through it. And having an understanding of it can change your life. You can have incredible miracles start happening once you create your focus on this and you understand this. You too are one of with everything and have access to it. You have this limited part of you that is immersed or identified with what you are. And you may think that your life has gone in this one direction. What if you had made those other decisions? But you can still go back to those lifelines. They're still available to you. Maybe you had a longing desire when you were a teenager to join a rock band, and another version did go that way. You can actually access that reality. What I'm saying is, you can go in to the idea of parallel realities and access any possibility. And once you actually create that frequency and vibration of that particular reality, you can become it. So we're going to go through 20 more techniques. If you go back to the last episode, I gave 20 different techniques on how to move into parallel realities, how to change parallel, more importantly, how to create great realities, create parallel realities. All of these techniques work. So the next one is number 21, the pure technique, which was created by Frederick Dodson. And it's pretty simple. You define a reality you would like to experience. You find out something you want to be, do, or have, which you feel is accessible to you and you'd be willing to live up to. If you don't know what you want, define something you don't want to experience anymore, and take the opposite of that as what you do want. The desire may be vague or specific. And then number 2, you relax into 0 point. You go to the void. You find silence. You find just that place of nothing. And before receiving a new somethingness, we return to the nothingness. You call a timeout. You sit or lie down. You close your eyes. And you become very silent and relaxed. You retrieve attention from any issues and problems of the outside world. Retrieve attention from any so-called factual evidence of things unwanted. Gently and gradually allow any wants or needs, have to, should, could, would, to fade away, and breathe. Gradually allow anything that you want. You breathe. You allow any judgments, labels, expectations, concepts, knowledge, opinions, definitions, and reactions about anything and everything to release. Yes, a lot of these techniques are similar, and you'll see a running theme with the different techniques that I'm giving you. Some of these could be the same. The void technique is very much like this. And the idea of moving into a reality on a quantum level means that you have to go to that void. So these things may still be there in your mind, but they're no longer relevant to the silence you're experiencing. So how do you do this? Well, you don't do it. Instead, you stop doing anything. You stop doing anything except observing and noticing. Observing and noticing is not even something you have to do, keep or hold, because the observer is always present anyway. Behind the clouds of the mind lie a clear sky of awareness, ever present, ever silent. So while things may come up in the mind, they are noticed with the same neutral ease you would observe clouds in the sky. This does not have to be created or made. It happens naturally when you rest into silence and allow yourself to become open, unhurried, and receptive. Once an ocean of silence is experienced, simply enjoy it. 0 point means that you are in neutral observer mode, neither desiring nor resisting. Nothing is being created, nothing is being decreated. Thoughts come and go, but they're irrelevant to this practice. You're not identified with anything in particular. Do not practice step 2 before you feel completely at ease. Well-being is not the goal of this practice, but it is a prerequisite. You're not going to go to the reality that you want to emulate, to create, to move into without some level of well-being. And then the next step is allow yourself to look at the new version of yourself that you want to be. Once silent, allow an image to appear that represents the version of yourself who's already experienced the desired reality. This is similar to visualization, but without concentration or effort. It is more relaxed, receiving or something already available or nearby. No willpower is used. You're not only imagining something or opening to possibility, but perceiving a version of yourself that already and really exists in a parallel reality. You're becoming aware of someone who's already there. Look at the version of yourself for who the desired reality is already real. And then the 4th step is you enter the new viewpoint. Rather than looking at the version of yourself as an observer who is separate, as someone desiring it, enter the viewpoint and look at the person as that person. Immerse yourself into that reality. Enjoy it with natural ease, gratitude, and happiness. Experience the image not only as a mental event, but along with a complete body sense of touch, tactile sense, and emotion. Do not do this in order to experience the reality later, or in order to experience the reality in the outside world for real, but in order to experience the joy of it right here and right now. You may feel a smile come to your face. Rest in it for a few minutes before releasing it and ending the closed-eyed process. And then the final step is just to rest in fulfillment in the hours, days, and weeks after. Simply rest in the new viewpoint. Rest in the fulfilled reality. This means that you don't try to make it happen, because you've already accepted it as real in your heart. And if it wasn't real, if it was real, you would not be making it happen. You don't need to affirm at that point. Visualize, repeat, or wait. You don't hope for it to come into some future, because you have claimed it as already real. You don't even think about it much further. You don't ask when, how, or where it'll show up. Instead, you simply do what offers itself to you throughout the day. And this will involve commonplace activities. Daily life continues in a natural manner without neediness or lack. Once in a while, you may want to re-feel the body sense of the chosen reality and enjoy what you have accepted as true, but often not even that is necessary. Furthermore, you needn't be acting as if the desired reality is manifest, for that still implies separation. Now, I have another technique that we're going to use, is the as-if principle, and this is a little bit different. The details are to be still, receive, and identify with the desired reality, and rest in the fulfillment. And there is more to it than you think. It is difficult for some people to actually release their current reality and to accept the new reality. This process and exercise is surprisingly difficult. When I explain it to people, they have a difficulty doing it. That's because you're stuck in your current reality, and it's hard to let that old one go. We observe our surroundings and take them to be indicators or evidence of what our life situation is all about. We were conditioned to constantly stare at what has been created and categorize it as good or bad, rather than looking at what could have been created. This process, this places an emphasis on outside creations rather than new creations made by your inner authority. If your current surroundings and everyday reality seem more real, significant, and meaningful than your inner vision, this is your precise reason you're not experiencing anything new. Pay attention to what you give your eyes to see. Your outer and inner eyes, because what you flow the most attention to becomes bigger. By seeing it, you make a selection and give your desire a form. You give it space and time. Relax and give your vision some time to unfold. It may take, don't even worry about the time. You are a visionary being, so see it in all its richness, detail, color, and situation. If you want something to be real, you have to view it as real. By saying, well, this is only imagination, you're invalidating something that you claim to want or like. So a lot of people try to do this, but they think that's just in my imagination. Consciousness does not differentiate between real and imagined. But if you differentiate by naming something less solid and significant, consciousness will bow to that. This is very, very important, but often overlooked. There are not feelings you have to create or produce by effort, but again, emotions you let in. And so that is the pure technique. And if you try it, it seems simple, but you can maneuver through realities and you can have some incredible effects from this. Number 22 is chronobiology. One thing that a lot of people aren't aware of that is literally controlling their reality and can pulling you at just in the same power as a pendulum is the chronobasis of your biology. So the timing and patterns of your biology. Do you notice that you have time periods where you're more energetic than others? Is there waves? Do you get more energy every 90 minutes? Well, there are chronobiologists that study this. So scientists had long observed that humans were influenced by a variety of biological rhythms, and these include the long rhythms of the human genetic lifespan, the yearly rhythms of the passing seasons, the monthly menstrual rhythms, the sleeping and waking rhythm of night and day, the waves or cycles that rise and fall several times each day, including sexual arousal and hunger. These rhythms are called ultradian rhythms. from the Greek ultra dies, beyond daily or many times a day. And during the last few years, chronobiologists and others have made astonishing discoveries about ultradians and their influence on our bodies and minds. By utilizing, understanding these rhythms, you can break out of a current reality lifeline and move into another one. One key finding that has emerged in recent years is that humans have been genetically programmed to operate on a 90 to 120 minute ultradian rest activity cycle known as the best rest activity cycle, or BRAC. Now, this cycle seems to regulate a wide array of mind and body activities. Hemispheric dominance. As I noted earlier, neurologist David Shanahoff-Khalsa of the Salk Institute for Biological Science did EEG studies of both right and left brain activity simultaneously and found that hemispheric dominance switched back and forth in a wave-like rhythm. So you're not left-brained or right-brained, it moves back and forth. The average time for the cycle from right to left to right, he found, was about 120 minutes. Body side dominance. Not only the brain hemispheres, but the actual sides of the body switch dominance every 90 to 20 minutes. By sampling neurotransmitter levels in blood taken from both arms every 7.5 minutes, the researchers found that catecholamines, dopamine, norepinephrine, epinephrine, adrenaline became more concentrated on one side or the other in a regular cycle that accompanies the basic rest activity cycle, verbal and spatial skills, since certain types of mental activity are linked with specific hemispheres. Shanahoff-Khalsa identification of a rhythm shift or of hemispheric dominance suggested that human mental activity might go through a similar ultradian rhythm. Other scientists testing suggested at regular intervals on verbal and spatial tasks. As I have said, it's been documented that there may be some kind of quantum wave that's coming in every 90 minutes. These waves may be interacting with our rhythms, and by understanding it and locking into it, I strongly believe this becomes a powerful technique to maneuver and jump into completely different and better timelines and parallel realities. Shanahoff-Khalsa's identification of a rhythmic shift of hemispheric dominance suggested that mental activity might go through a similar ultradian rhythm. They found when verbal ability was high, spatial ability was low, and vice versa. And this alternating pattern continued throughout the day and night in cycles of 90 to 120 minutes. So it affects coordination, and memory scientists studying subjects playing video games measured various skills and found that hand-eye coordination, learning, and short-term memory all showed a pattern of peaks and valleys. So you may be doing your meditation at the wrong time, or you may be trying to solve a math problem at the wrong time. The peaks in performance occurred about every 90 minutes. Physical activity scientists observed subjects who were left alone in a neutral environment, a quiet, sparsely furnished room, and found they showed a clear basic rest activity cycle of around 110 minutes. So you may need certain level of alertness. When subjects were tested on complex tasks that demanded intense concentration and alertness, their performance rose and fell in an unmistaken 90 to 120 minute cycle. So when we talk about peak performance, it's an understanding of your own personal rhythms. Go back to that journal, document, and start to get used to the timing. Start noticing your clock. Start documenting how you feel over periods of time, mentally, physically, in every way, shape, and form. It affects creativity, and we're going to talk about creativity later in this podcast. But creativity performance on a number of tests that measure creativity shows that it tends to rise and fall in the ultradian rhythm of around 90 minutes. So every 90 minutes, start clocking in at 90 minutes. So if it's 1 o'clock, check back at around 2:30 and see if that is your rhythm. Start getting used to the timing and start really analyzing your body. They even show that it affects optimism and pessimism during high energy phases. According to psychologist Robert Thayer, people can be over optimistic and tend to overestimate their resources and the time and energy required for a project. Similarly, during low energy phases, they can be overly pessimistic, tending to underestimate their own resources. So you may have phases where you're making decisions with a pessimistic rhythm that's pulling you into a different direction, just like a pendulum. There's rest and healing. The peaks in physical activity and energy every 90 to 120 minutes are mirrored by troughs and valleys, with the deepest part of the trough being about a period of 15 to 20 minutes. Evidence suggests that the body requires this short rest or recovery period and uses it to essentially repair and growth and replenish its stores of neurochemicals. At the same time, the mind shifts away from external matters into a common everyday trance, a period of inward focus during which some sort of mental rest and reorganization takes place. This period of increased theta brainwave activity can occur, and so they see that brain waves can occur in rhythms. Research indicates this is all important period of rest and mental receptivity can be adjusted if you understand this cyclical rhythm. Now, I personally believe when you sleep, if you can sleep in 90-minute intervals and count out the 90-minute intervals that you sleep throughout your week, and I'll go into some more research on that it can help you immensely. According to Rossi, research indicates that our major mind-body systems of self-regulation, the autonomic nervous system, and the immune system have important 90 to 120-minute basic rest activity cycles. So when these human fundamental processes of learning and performance, digestion and body repair, sex, personality, all respond to these 90 to 120-minute rhythms, the way it affects our glands, our circular system, the way our heart beats, obviously these rhythms are part of this particular vibration of whatever reality that you're in. And if you're going to break that reality, you need to break the rhythm. You need to first of all come into tune with the rhythms that you have. And one way you can do this is through the next technique, which is number 23, mindfulness training. Now that seems any self-help book or anybody that talks about meditation or the law of attraction or reality transurfing, the idea of the present moment being the most important is powerful. Mindfulness is powerful. Mindfulness of what is going on in the moment is powerful. To explain more, practiced in the East or West in ancient times and modern societies, mindful awareness techniques help people move toward well-being by training the mind to focus on moment-to-moment experience. People sometimes hear the word mindfulness and they think religion. But the reality is that focusing our attention in this way is a biological process that promotes health, a form of brain hygiene, like brushing your teeth. It's not a religion. Various religions may encourage this health-promoting practice, but learning the skill of mindful awareness is simply a way of cultivating what we have defined as the integration of consciousness. In fact, one of the first studies to reveal the psychotherapy could actually change the brain, a study of obsessive-compulsive disorder done at UCLA, used mindfulness as a component of the treatment. In addition, in our own pilot, in a pilot study conducted in the book Mindsight at the Mindful Awareness Research Center at UCLA, they found that mindfulness training was highly effective for adults and teens who had trouble paying attention. 2,500 years of this kind of practice and recent neuroscience investigations and an understanding of quantum science suggest that mindfulness is a form of mental activity that trains the mind to become aware of awareness itself, to wake up in the movie, and to pay attention to one's own attention. As researchers have defined it, mindfulness requires paying attention to the present moment from a stance that is non-judgmental and non-reactive. You do not judge what's happening. It's already happened. Happiness is all that you have a choice of in that moment. When you experience the moment, remember the moment that you're experiencing has already happened. For your senses to pick up and understand and translate that moment into your senses, they have to have already happened. There's a delay. So you have to accept the moment that you're in. And it teaches self-observation. People are able to describe words, the internal seascape of the mind. At the heart of this process is a form of internal tuning into oneself that enables people to become their own best friend. And to just as our attunement to our children becomes healthy, secure attachment, tuning into your own self promotes a foundation of resilience and flexibility. Ongoing research has showed that middle prefrontal regions were indeed thicker in mindfulness practitioners. So repeat that again. When you are just simply mindful, your brain grows. We've talked about neuroplasticity, but think about that. Just by the practice of mindfulness, you have a larger brain. Mindful awareness might directly stimulate the growth of the clusters of neurons called resonance circuits. These neural circuits, which include the middle prefrontal areas, enable us to resonate with others and to regulate ourselves. It is here that we can see the connection between attunement and regulation. Internal and interpersonal forms of attunement each lead to the growth of regulatory circuits of the brain. When we have attunement, either interpersonally or internally, we become more balanced and regulated. Now, understand that the idea in quantum science, as I've described on other podcasts, is that time is not linear, that all of time exists, that it's relative, and that all of time exists. The future exists, and we have access to the future. And so what's happening when you're in a mindful state, you're opening yourself up to all of these different futures. And for you to experience a reality, you need to imagine it happening in the moment now, not in the future somehow by separating it. But it also gives you a greater awareness and information. It calms the mind. It's helpful to be able to become aware of your own mind. That can be very useful for awareness to have. Yet not much happens in school or in our family life that lets us come to know ourselves. We come home, we watch TV, we get on our phones. So we're going to spend a couple of minutes now. Let's do this. Just let yourself get settled. It's good to sit with your back straight, if you can, feet planted flat on the floor, legs uncrossed. If you need to lie flat on the floor, that's okay too. And with your eyes open at first, just try this. Try letting your attention go to the center of the room. And now notice your attention as you let it go to the far wall. And now follow your attention as it comes back to the middle of the room. And then bring it up close as if you were holding a book at reading distance. Notice how your attention can go to very different places. Now let your attention go inward. You might let your eyes close at this point. Get a sense inside yourself of your body, in space, where you're sitting in the room. And now let yourself just be. Let your awareness find the breath wherever you feel it most prominently. Whether it's at the level of your nostrils, the air going in and out, or the level of your chest as it goes up and down, or the level of your abdomen going inward and outward. Perhaps you'll even just notice your whole body breathing. Wherever it comes naturally, just let your awareness ride the wave of your breath, and then your out breath. When you come to notice, as often happens, that your mind may have wandered and become lost in a thought or memory, a feeling or worry, when you notice that, just take a note of it and gently, lovingly return your awareness toward your breath, wherever you feel it, and follow that wave of the in-breath and the out-breath. As you follow your breath, I'm going to tell you an ancient story that's been passed through generations. The mind is like an ocean, and deep in the ocean, beneath the surface, it's calm and clear. And no matter what the surface conditions are like, whether it's smooth or choppy, or even a full-strength gale, deep in the ocean, the tranquil and serene, from the depth of the ocean, you can look towards the surface and simply notice the activity there. Just as from the depth of the mind, you can look upward toward the waves, the brain waves at the surface of your mind. All that activity of mind, the thoughts, the feelings, the sensations and memories. Enjoy this opportunity to just observe those activities at the surface of your mind. At times it may be helpful to let your attention go back to your breath and follow the breath to reground yourself in the tranquil place in the deepest depth of the mind. It's a simple exercise. You focus on your breath. You focus on this place and you begin to form an awareness of tranquility, of safety, of openness, of curiosity. It's very similar to the void meditation, and we talked about the Ganzfeld effect in the last episode. But becoming more aware, your emotions change, they're more balanced. It's very powerful. It's one great way to maneuver into a great reality. Number 24, the as-if method, which may be, based on the science of quantum physics, the most realistic method of understanding how to move through a parallel reality. It's pretty simple. If the observer effect is true, if the observer controls the particle, transferring it from wave into particle, the observer is coming with his own beliefs and attention to that wave front. And the wave front is just responding to whatever we are thinking in our minds. So imagine there's this pure, beautiful energy of source that's all around you, and you are constantly creating your reality all the time. Imagine that you're in a room of 1 billion possibilities, and you can shine your flashlight on one thing. Whatever you shine pulls itself towards you. So one way to shine the light is to act as if. So if you have something that you want to achieve, something that you want to accomplish, it's interesting because science and research shows if you act as if you are already that thing, as if it's already happened, as if you are already healthy, you can transform your body, your mind, and everything. As William James said in 1884, if you want a quality, act as if you already have it. The notion of behavior causing emotion suggests that people should be able to create any feeling they desire by acting as if they have experienced that emotion, or as William James put it again, if you want a quality, act as if you have already had it, according to Richard Wiseman's wonderful book, The As-If Principle. And I recommend you read it. A few years ago, according to Wiseman, scientists decided to conduct the ultimate test of this hypothesis by putting our participants in a brain scanner and asking them to contort their faces into a fearful expression, acting as if they were in fear. And unlike the psychological studies that had been conducted throughout the preceding few decades, the participants did not have to tell the experimenters how they were feeling. The researchers could just tell by looking at the brains of the participants, and they saw a highly active amygdala and conclude that the participants were indeed experiencing genuine fear just by making a facial expression that was fearful. It is just like when you are not feeling well. Have you ever smiled and given yourself a big smile? The neurochemicals are released in your brain and suddenly your body thinks that you're happy. I'm telling you, if you smile, you can become happy if you're unhappy. If you're sad, you can create a feeling of happiness by creating your body in a happy state. This has been proven on multiple levels, as we just indicated, by brain scan studies. Your behavior does influence how you feel, and so, as a result, it is possible to manufacture emotions at will, as the as-if principle predicts, according to Wiseman. According to this study, Ekman invited volunteers into his laboratory where he attached them to a machine that monitored their heart rate and skin temperature. He then asked each participant to carry out 2 tasks. The first was designed to make them feel genuine anger and involved thinking about an event in their lives that had made them feel angry, then mentally reliving that event as vividly as possible. For the second one, they produced only facial expression of anger. This procedure was then repeated for several emotions, including fear, sadness, happiness, surprise, and disgust. But not surprisingly, the genuine emotional memories triggered certain patterns in participants' physiology with, for example, fear producing a high heart rate and low skin temperatures, and happiness resulting in a low heart rate and higher skin temperatures. Remarkably, exactly the same physiological pattern emerged when people adopted a facial expression. When they looked fearful, their heart rate rocketed and skin temperatures dropped. When they put a smile on their faces, their heart rates fell and their skin temperatures increased. Curious to discover whether this mechanism was hardwired into the human psyche, Ekman and his team journeyed across the world and repeated this study with inhabitants of remote islands. The results were identical to those found in the West. It's not a cultural artifact, suggesting that the as-if principle is not a product of Western culture, but rather the deep-seated product of our evolutionary past. Ekman's findings showed that behaving as if you were experiencing an emotion does more than influence how you feel. It also shows a direct and powerful effect on your body. These are incredible things. So act as if. If you want to be that actor in Hollywood, you have to act as if you were already a successful actor in Hollywood. How would you walk? How would you talk? How would your facial muscles do that? This has been found in attraction. They have actually found in studies that when you act like you're attracted, you end up becoming attracted to somebody. Why is it that so many actors fall in love on the set? And you can create willpower by acting as if you have it. Or persuasion, you can act as if. All of these things have been identified. And so if you can act as if you are having the reality that you want, and this is not easy. We can probably talk about it more with the idea of identity shifting, which we're going to talk about next. The idea is that you can shift your identity, and that's number 25, identity shifting. What I have found in seeing people massively change their own realities, it's better than visualizing or wanting to be, it's becoming. And so the idea is you have to completely shift your identity from who you are. There are plenty of hard science indicators that an identity shift causes a reality shift. But here is just one of the more extreme examples. In researching multiple personality disorder, it has been proven again and again that extreme changes can occur when someone shifts identity. In clinical studies of NPD, people have been witnessed to lose 20 pounds within a few days. Facial scars suddenly disappeared. People's voices, memories, and looks transformed within minutes. But an identity shift does not only change the body, it changes the whole body of experience. As science will someday have the courage to admit, since the outside world is not separate from consciousness, changing self equals changing the outside world. In this light, you may understand how superfluous and unnecessary, complicated it is to use. Affirmations and visualizations in order to make something happen out there is. You have your identity now. It's made up of the following components: a name, a profession or a regular activity, a family, friends, enemies, a place of living, ownership of materials, documents that prove your identity, passports and birth certificates, pictures, things that prove your past, languages and dialects you speak, certain most used vocabulary, phrases that you commonly use, intonations, slang, idioms, and ways to communicate. Certain looks of your body and face, certain gestures and mimics and movements, certain hobbies, preferred places and regular activities, certain character traits and attitudes, certain desires, dreams and goals, certain resistances and dispreferences, certain strengths and weaknesses. Changing, removing, or replacing one of these elements can be fun and cause a slight identity shift and its accompanying fresh rush of energy. You could change the name by which people call you, which is something that I have personally experienced. A lot of people listening to this podcast know my real name. My name is Brian Scott. You could change the friends that you spend time with. You could even change your enemies. You can change your job or where you live. You could change the way you behave and speak. Cults, sects, and pendulums often use methods of identification, but not for purposes of reality surfing, rather for purposes of re-indoctrination into their specific pendulum belief system and changing elements of the world self, the self that you think you are. You are having fun meddling with the core identity, which is basically a mask hiding your soul. This is the methods that you can do at understanding identity as a separate factor from visualizing or observation or acting as if. In many ways, identity and acting as if are very similar. But it's good as a part of this exercise to think of all of the aspects of as if. As I said, many of these things are the same. The spaces you enter are the movie sets. To see them as movie sets and to become aware of them, especially the in-between times, allows you to intend certain realities per space. So the space ends up also defining your identity. For instance, you feel and behave differently in the privacy of a restroom than in front of customers. Notice the identity shift occur when you enter a restroom. In fact, people with too many approval identities will experience major shifts in mood when entering the privacy of a restroom. Free from all masks they have to wear in front of others, they finally relax. And knowing this, you'll be able to practice the same relaxedness in front of others. Compare your being in the bedroom with your being at the office at work, and you'll find out that you have different identities. So how radically an identity shift changes reality, and even more the body, can be seen. And we've seen it with studies. We've seen how you've done it. So once again, the process is simple. Sit in silence, relax into the viewpoint of the non-identified witness. Notice an ambivalent identity, meaning someone you sometimes like being and sometimes not like being. For example, I want to be free, I'll end the relationship. Or I want to be connected and stay in the relationship. Notice both identities and how they exist in different universes with no apparent connection or overlay to each other. Once you're aware of the two sides of yourself, start projecting a beam of resistance on the version of yourself desiring something. Afterwards, project a beam of desire on the version of yourself desiring something. Then project desire on the version of yourself resisting something. Then project resistance on the version of yourself resisting something. The resistance becomes a part of your identity as well. Identifying these different things can help you. In entering viewpoints, all of these things can shift your reality. It shifts your belief systems. It shifts everything. So number 26 is luck training. And one thing that I've had courses for is for luck training. A lot of what I've learned about luck training was from a class that I took with Richard Wiseman. And luck training is very powerful, and understand what luck is. You know people that are lucky and that are not lucky. But is it really that they're lucky? Or is there science behind it? Because guess what? You can practice to become lucky, and you can improve your luck. You know, Richard Wiseman in his book, The Luck Factor, did a full research study and figured out how to identify people through different questionnaires and through their friends and things like that, how to identify people that were lucky. And then try to identify people that were not lucky. And they noticed when, for instance, they would invite an unlucky person to get coffee, and they would lay out a $20 bill. The unlucky person wouldn't see the $20 bill. The lucky person would pick it up. And that's not because of their luck. It's because when you're unlucky, the way that you see the world is different. And you end up not creating the luck that you need. Lucky people are creating their luck. So there's basically four different things that can determine your luck based on this research. The first is maximize your chance opportunities. If you want to have better luck, you need to have more chances. You know this, if you've ever been to Vegas, the more you play the slot machine, the more of a chance that you have to win. So in our lives, we can create more chance opportunities by building strong networks, by overcoming our introvertedness and becoming extroverted. Initiate conversations. Be open to new opportunities. Lucky people introduce more variety into their lives based on this research. They're more relaxed. They have a more relaxed attitude, which opens up more chance opportunities in their life. Number 2 is that people listen to their luck hunches. Lucky people listen to their hunches and gut feelings. Go back to my podcast on intuition, and people that are lucky are doing those things. They're listening to their voice. They're listening to the feelings in their body, and they follow these instincts. Number 3 is that most lucky people statistically expect good fortune. They expect good things to happen. Understand what happens. When you expect something good to happen, you make different choices. You make different choices over and over and over again, which lead to greater things in your life. Lucky people expect good luck to continue in the future. And when unpredictable events work out, the attitude of expectation is that unpredictable, crazy things are going to happen and they're going to work out. And that is part of being the lucky mindset. And the final thing is to turn bad luck into good luck. The majority of lucky people still have bad things happen to them, but they respond completely differently. Lucky people see the positive side of their bad luck. You know, you look at somebody like it's interesting because studies have shown bronze medal winners are happier than silver medal winners because they could see that they couldn't win. So the idea is you look at the positive side, that the bronze medal you still placed. There's some counterfactual thinking that's involved in this, but it works. And the final thing I would recommend is for luck training is to start including in the journal that you're doing now, include passages about your luck. If you feel like you were lucky, if something lucky happened, write it down. And sometimes you can trace back by doing some of these behaviors, by creating greater influence and meeting more people and going out and trusting your hunches and expecting good things to happen. You can actually see things start to happen. You can trace how the changes that you made, and that's why you can train for luck. Number 27 is water and temperature training. Right now you can change your reality by using hot and cold temperatures and waters and saunas. They literally will change your reality. CEOs do this. Jack Dorsey, the CEO for Twitter, has a daily routine that he often meditates for an hour twice a day and jumpstarts his morning by taking regular ice baths followed by a sauna in the evening. It's not as relaxing as it may seem, according to the article in People, as Dorsey explained that his evening hydrotherapy routine consists of sitting in the barrel sauna for 15 minutes at 220 degrees before hopping into a 37-degree ice bath for 3 minutes. After completing the extreme cycle 3 times, he tops off the bodily shock with 1 minute in an ice bath. Nothing has given me more mental confidence than being able to go straight from room temperature into the cold, Dorsey told Greenfield of the ice baths. Especially in the morning, going into an ice cold tub from just being warm in bed it unlocks this thing in my mind, and I feel like if I can will myself to do that thing, that seems so small but hurts so much, I can do nearly anything. This will turn a switch on in your mind. It will take away your fears. You will do harder subjects. One of the most fascinating routines that you can do and exercises that you can do right now is the Wim Hof technique. It has transformed my life. It's a fantastic breathing technique. Go on YouTube, look up how to do the Wim Hof technique, try it out. Wim Hof is, if you don't know about him, he set the world record for the longest time in a direct full body contact with ice. I think it was like an hour and 53 minutes. An hour and 53 minutes and 2 seconds. And so I think through his experience and trying to set these world records, he created a breathing technique. It's like a controlled hyperventilation. And the first phase involves 30 cycles of breathing. Each cycle goes as follows. You take a powerful breath in, fully filling the lungs, and you breathe out passively, not like a big blowout, releasing the breath, but not actively exhaling. Repeat the cycle at a steady pace 30 times. Wim Hof says that this form of hyperventilation may lead to tingling sensations or lightheadedness, and it does. I can definitely tell you that. And then exhalation. After completing 30 cycles, take another deep breath in and let it out completely, and then you hold the breath as long as possible. And you count on your timer. And then you go back to doing the breath, and then you see how long you can hold your breath. When strong urges to breathe occur, take a full deep breath. Hold the breath for around 15 to 20 seconds, let it go. And using this technique, the breathing in, it's like oxygen ends up in your body, even though you breathe it out. And you learn a little bit about the way your breath works. There is oxygen you're storing in your body. And when you take those big breaths in, when you hold your breath, by the third time you're doing it for a much longer period of time. You do this 3 times, and it's absolutely fascinating. And once you're done, you take a cold bath, a shower, go into a cold lake or tub for as long as comfortable. And the body temperature seems to be increased a little bit by the breathing, so that when you go into the colder temperature, you end up with that heat shock. And it's very powerful, and I recommend it. The stress from heat alterations, such as extreme exposure to cold, is actually good for our health, athletic endurance, preventing muscle atrophy, increasing neurogenesis, improving learning and memory, and improving longevity. Cold showers can even be used to treat depression. Exposure to cold releases norepinephrine into the brain, where it is involved in vigilance, focus, attention, and mood. It also has a role in pain, metabolism, and inflammation. This response is mediated by the sympathetic nervous system. Norepinephrine can rise 200-300% with cold immersion, near 0 Celsius for 20 seconds 3 times a week. It reduces inflammation through the inhibition of inflammatory cytokinesis, including TNF-alpha, a molecule involved in almost every human disease from type 2 diabetes to cancer. Inflammatory cytokines also play a role in anxiety, depression. Therefore, cold exposure may have mood-enhancing capabilities. Cold activates thermogenesis, a way for the body to produce heat. This health benefits are due to activation of the brown adipose tissue, a form of fat that burns regular fat for heat generation through fat oxidation. This has mitochondrial effects in the cranking out more ATP. Cold exposure also releases cold shock proteins, such as RNA binding RBM3, that is linked to regeneration of synapses in the brain. And similar effects have been observed in so-called heat shock proteins when you do the sauna after your workout, or if you can pull it off to do the sauna after you go into the cold shower, the cold tub, the cold lake. It's so powerful. It produces the heat shock protein, and you can have the same powerful effects. Things to remember: just don't do this with alcohol. Don't overdo it. You don't need to go longer than 15-20 minutes in the sauna or the cold. Cool down. If you do the sauna, cool down gradually and drink a bunch of water when you're done. That's my recommendation from my experience. It's been great for my health. I definitely recommend that you do it. Talk to a doctor if you don't know. Number 28 is gratitude. And gratitude is powerful because it's the emotional signature of the reality that you want. If you are a billionaire, there's a certain level of billionaire gratitude that you'd have. And that's an emotional signature the universe recognizes and collectively collapses the wavefront around you for that. So when you want to understand how to create a feeling of something that you haven't felt before, become grateful for it. Gratitude is an emotional signature that brings good things into your life. Gratitude is a simple thing to understand. You know, when my kids come and ask me for something and I give it to them, it's great. But when they say thank you, I have greater joy and I want to give them more. The gratitude has a certain power, and the universe is like that. The universe has the same desire for your gratitude. If you give the universe gratitude, it will know that, oh, well, you like that. I'm going to give you more. So, I mean, they've even researched gratitude. Psychologists Robert Emmons and Michael McCullough wondered what would happen to people's happiness levels if they were asked to carry out the conceptual equivalent of leaving bread smelling in a room and coming back in again. The researchers wanted to discover the effects of reminding people of the good things that were constantly present in their lives. And they studied 3 different groups, and they had a controlled, and everyone scribbled what they were grateful about in one group, and another one they act what they are annoyed about. And the group that said what they were grateful about ended up happier, more optimistic about the future, and physically healthier than the other groups that did not. Number 29, the 29th technique is using your energy centers. And I recommend you listen to my podcast about Tufti, the princess, and using the Plat center, but using your chakras by awakening and activating chakras. It seems as if your reality changes once that energy center is activated. But Vadim Zeland, in his book Tufti the Priestess, discusses using something called the Plat center, which is behind your back, where the intentions for your future come in. And it's a visual technique of going to this energy center on your back. And I recommend you listen to those podcasts for further details, or read the book Tufti the Priestess. It is a powerful technique that is the primary technique in that book. Another fascinating technique is the 2-cup method. The 2-cup method, or quantum jumping by drinking 2 cups of water. So here's the idea. You get 2 cups of glasses. Doesn't matter what kind. They don't need to match. They just need to hold an ounce or 2 of water. And 2 small pieces of paper, or if you can draw on the glass, that's even better. Tape if you don't have sticky notes. Water, a pen. Consider something that you'd like to change. You distill it, 1 or 2 words, write it on a Post-it, stick the paper to one of the glasses. Consider what you would rather have, but don't use a negation of your undesired word and vice versa, as in anxious and non-anxious. You get the drift. Anxious, then relaxed, confident, or composed. Tape or stick the desired word on the second glass. I've even gone to the level of you can write down how much money you have in your bank account, and then you can write down on another cup the amount that you want to have in your bank account. And you write down on a piece of paper or stick it to the second glass. You pour the water in each one. You take a moment and to ponder how each one how each one makes you. And you pour the water into the empty glass labeled your preferred outcome. And then you take a moment and you imagine the preferred outcome, all the details with the richest, most powerful thing. Remember, you're activating the water. Dr. Masoto's research on water is fascinating. You can actually vibrate water. Water can detect whether or not you're angry or sad. It's been proven scientifically. So we're talking about something that's real. You can literally activate the water that you're using. Something more incredible, you can get water cups that have crystals in them to create and emphasize the balance of it. And then you just drink the water feeling grateful, and then you mix them. What you end up doing is you mix both of them together. You mix one cup with the other, and you drink it all together. And then you just forget about it. Reddit forum members share experiences of the 2-glass or 2-cup method with an amazement. It's disconcerting when things start coming true. Who came up with this exercise anyway? Was it in a book or somewhere, said one member? Some use pictures rather than words. Many experiment with prosperity, weight loss, or relationships. Those who succeed admonish others to relax and forget about it after completing the steps. The more experienced warn newbies to carefully consider the change they ask for. One member reported using a quantum jump method for a serious health issue. She said the condition was gone. But friends and family were somehow different, and that while she was grateful to be well, she missed their former selves. So she had literally traveled to another reality where her body was better, but the people around her were different. Others find themselves stunned when a shift occurs. A few days after jumping, I noticed a few odd events. For example, in my neighborhood, there are a lot of black cats, but after I began seeing white cats, I intuitively felt that the universe was winking at me. A few projects that I had been working on began to take off. So much so I literally had a nervous breakdown from the good news. I was no longer a financial wreck, according to one person. And of course, some claim complete failure, believing that it's something about themselves that messed it up. And that's one way to be special. The insight gained by many is that shifts don't happen out there. Outer reality adjusts to the inner intention. Quantum fields can respond to deliberate choices and actions. We also have the power to disempower ourselves with our discursive states of mind, expectations, perceived failures, and desperation for escape from current reality. Technique number 31 is sigil hacking. It's a concept that was created in magic. And the idea is they would create magic spells and associate them with pictures, often looking like squiggles and different ideas. They would write out what they would want and then turn it into a picture. And many advanced practitioners will create works of art and write down an intention and then paint over the intention. And the artwork itself becomes a magical powerhouse. And what I have found, the hack that I have found is create pictures of your own if you can, or symbols that identify with what you want. You can create a symbol that identifies with meditation, or a symbol that identifies with increasing your visualization, or increasing your ability to manifest. Look at these symbols before you meditate. Spend like 30 seconds for each one. You're going to find more enhanced meditations when you use the Sigil method. Just create a representational field that you can come back to and anchor yourself. It anchors your meditational state. And I believe by doing it, it can excel and enhance your total ability to enter into a parallel reality. Number 32, the vibration gravity hack. So vibration is a low-impact exercise. There are more and more equipment that's being offered that allows you to vibrate, usually standing on a plate that vibrates. It's popular for a low-key way of burning calories, and it enhances lymphatic drainage, which helps clear the body of toxins and stagnant energy. And the element of play itself raises our vibration. By far, most people knew it. The idea of power plate exercise. It may be difficult, and if you don't want to buy, you can get one for pretty cheap. The vibration, says Quist, one researcher, tricks the body into thinking you're falling. So this in turn activates the stress reflex, an extremely rapid muscle contraction, says Quist, owner of Form and Fitness, a Milwaukee health club and rehabilitation center. So according to manufacturers, these can increase circulation, muscle strength, flexibility, better range of motion, core conditioning and stability, and faster muscle recovery, increasing bone mineral density and metabolism, and increasing human growth hormone levels and lymphatic flow. There are machines called chi machines where you lay on the ground. You can either lay on a board that vibrates or on something that you attach your legs to, and it shakes your body from the ankles up. And it also creates these vibrations and has similar effects affecting your nervous system, sympathetic nervous system, and cell oxygenation. They call it the chi machine, and it's something that you can try. I remember my grandfather way back had a table that he would lay on that vibrated. It kind of moved him back and forth. And this movement is powerful when done in combination with inversion tables or boots. It's a simple hack, and not everybody can do it. But I'm just telling you, it's a really powerful combination. You stand on a vibration machine, and when you're done, you get on an inversion table. One of those tables or racks that hangs you upside down, or inversion boots that hang you, or gravity boots that hang you upside down. You can do each of these for a minute, but it increases your vibration, and then it changes the gravity and nature of your energy. As I discuss in the energy podcast, the Bindu chakra, which is behind the head, can be activated by doing headstands. They do it in yoga, and one of the things, by using an inversion table, you can activate that Bindu. I believe that it has a powerful effect on your energy flow, and the intentions that I've created when using this have been powerful, and it's a very powerful hack. You don't want to do it if you have high blood pressure or diabetes or backaches. And it can cause pressure in the ocular eye area that can cause damage. So you want to be careful with that. But it is very powerful. The next, number 33, is just new adventures. Sometimes doing something new and exciting is the key to living a fulfilling life. We talked about it with in luck, with creating new chances. But it should be its own technique. When we get stuck in our ruts, change from your ruts. Our energy can become stagnant and stale. Opening yourselves up to new experiences, people, and situations can give us the wake-up call that we need to move into new realities. Take matters into your own hands by planning a spur-of-the-moment trip, or calling an old friend for a fun rendezvous, or go on a different way home. Try a different food or different restaurant. Not all adventures have to be big ones, just something different and new. The 34th technique is to open your heart. As I said, opening your energy centers, but as Frederick Dotson says, the answer as a life coach to all of the questions is to open your heart. It doesn't mean becoming a doormat for other people and their personal dramas. It means being more vulnerable and courageous and giving and receiving love. Because when you do this, you can move into realities you never would have expected by just simply opening your heart to love. Love is a very, very high frequency emotion, and unfortunately not many of us get enough of it. Make sure that you reach balance here, neither spreading yourself too thin or taking too much. The key to living an authentic life is trust, hope, and open your heart to both giving and receiving. The 35th technique is nature. I believe that nature is more wave than particle, and that when you're in nature, you have direct access to source. When you go stand right next to a tree, hug a tree, that feeling of strength that's heading directly up into the sky is pure source. And in nature, the observer is neutral. So makes time to step outside often, even if it's just for a quick stroll around the block. It's something that I've been terrible at in my life, and once I started doing it, usually at the prodding of my girlfriend, it has changed my life. If you're having a hard time with something, go out into nature. I'm just telling you that it is a hack that will change your overall demeanor and can massively change your reality. And that's what people are doing. They're changing their realities every day when they go on these hikes because they've had their realities changed. They know it changes their mood, it changes their attention, it changes everything. Enjoy Mother Earth and allow her to increase your vibration. The 36th technique is to write. Write out the reality that you want. Really live in it. Do it. In first person, present tense. I'm not talking about writing a novel. It can be somewhat boring, but describe your whole day. It's different than a visualization. You're going through a process. You're understanding the journey in a big way. Writers have experienced many times, the ones that are massively into their books, they've experienced incredible kinds of weird synchronicities when they write about things. This has power, and it's one reason journaling is so powerful. And so the 36 is to write in your journal also. Can write in your journal. Write all the different things in your journal. The writing process, the pen to paper, can change your reality. Number 37, perhaps the most powerful of all techniques to change your reality, is to read. Read 20 to 30 pages of something positive every day, and it will completely change your life. Seek new opportunities to learn and grow. Read new books. Participate in programs. Listen to podcasts and attend seminars. If you can't do that, but if you can, just read. The world is your oyster. Becoming aware of the truths of the world can help align you to a better reality. How can you know the reality that you want if you don't know it? And oftentimes the only place that we can find access to this material is in a book. And you can learn something new, expand your awareness, and allow to adopt a more well-rounded, big picture view of how the world works. The next is one of the most powerful techniques, and that's the creativity hack. If you want to create your own reality, you have to become creative. You may not be creative. Do you do art? Do you create songs? Do you take pictures? Have you created something lately? Have you gone through the process where you created something? You go into flow, something magical happens, and you become transported and transcend this world. Your vibration is going up. It has power. And it's the one thing that changed my life forever. It's the creativity hack. It's a simple exercise. And I'm telling you, I've mentioned it on other podcasts. I really want to know if you've tried it. But do something creative every day. That can include a playlist. Create a playlist of your own. That can include making a song. That can include writing a poem. That can include drawing a little sketch. Just do one creative thing every day. And once you have something creative that you're proud of, that is your creative, put it next to your bed. So when you wake up in the morning, you see that thing that you created. What is even more wonderful is if you can paint a painting of any kind. It doesn't even have to be, it can be completely just strokes of the brush. Put it up next to your bed. When you wake up in the morning, you will see something that you created. You will be reminded in that moment that you are a creative being, that you are creative. And this thing can change everything for you. Become creative. I don't care who you are, what your situation is. If you've never been creative in your life, there is a part of you that's calling out to be creative. And once you go through this journey of being creative, of being an artist, because you are all artists, it may be just dancing or whatever it is. And if you're in a rut, you still don't believe you're creative, find it out, focus and find it. Visit an art museum, listen to an album you've never heard before. Create something every day for 30 days, and your entire world will change forever. The 39th technique is to release. A lot of times you're harboring unpleasant thoughts, painful memories, grudges of the past. that keep you in your reality now. There's no way for you to move into another reality without releasing these thoughts, memories, and grudges. We must release anything that stands in the way of living a happy, healthy, and fulfilling life. And to do this, make sure that you're living in the present moment as often as possible, or you're creating a future that you want instead of living in the past. It's not difficult. There's lots of ways to let go of things and release, but it is absolutely a technique. And you're going to have something right now that's holding you back. And once you release it, your reality will change, which is absolutely a definition of a technique to change reality. And finally, the 40th technique to change reality, the final 40th, is to give big. Give big. When we give and give and give, it may be hard to receive in return. A heart that's too open is a heart that's not in balance. So try not to self-sacrifice and aim to give from your heart when your cup is full. You have so much to offer the world, and the opportunity to receive as big as you give is always available. Give, and you'll see incredible things happen. Give more than you think you can to somebody that really needs it, to some group that needs it, and you can do this. So that's 40 techniques that I've given over the last 2 podcasts. Some basic tips just when you start traveling through these realities that you should be aware of. The universe may be weird and unusual. You may see unusual signs. You may have things happen that go outside of your memory. You may have objects that move and disappear. You may have memories that begin to change. The people around you may begin to change. The moment that you give in to that and you become worried or concerned about it, you will be pulled right back to the reality that you're in. Be open to new, unusual, and strange, weird experiences. And when you go through this shift, allow yourself to get used to your new body. Sometimes you can do a gradual shift to a parallel reality, but sometimes you do quantum jumps. With some of these techniques that I've given, you'll quantum jump into an entirely different reality that is so much better than what you have now, if you want it. But the problem is the body that you're in and the memories are completely different. And so the part of your spirit says, no, I don't, no, and runs away. So give yourself some time when you do this to get used to your body. And remember, if you go to a reality and you decide that you don't want it, you can come back, because that's what we're doing. We're surfing realities. As the wave brings us back home, we get back on the board and go back out. And you can play with reality, and you can give yourself an incredible future of bliss and happiness, because we all know that our consciousness is subjective on some level. And what we're doing is giving ourselves techniques to choose the way our consciousness interacts with the quantum universe around us. Thank you for spending these 2 hours and 13 minutes. If you've listened to both of these podcasts, episode 1 and 2 from both of these, about techniques to change your reality. And I really hope that you try one of these. Some of these you may not be able to do, requiring equipment or something like that. I've tried to give as many. And guess what? There are many more that I have. And we will probably go over those on other podcasts. This is just 40 that we've been able to come up with just for this week. And start thinking about ways that you can change your consciousness, your mind, the way you think, your subconscious. All of those things go to affect your reality. If you'd like to get coaching, please contact me. My website is advancedsuccessinstitute.com. You can email me at brian@advancedsuccessinstitute. You can also check out the podcast at therealityrevolution.com. All the podcasts are there with transcripts available of every episode, and we have 7 meditations on there right now. There's some incredible meditations that I've gotten great reports. People have really had major changes, and we're going to be creating more meditations in the future. I can in fact create guided meditations for you. I can coach your group. I can coach you in a variety of different ways. It's something I love to do. So if it's something that you're interested in, contact me. If you have any other questions, contact me. You can reach out on the Facebook group, Reality Revolution, where I post articles and different supporting ideas behind some of these podcasts. I would love to hear your story and the way that you have shifted through reality so I can add to this list. So feel free. I'd love to hear more from you. And I want to thank you for joining the reality revolution. Have a wonderful day.